Got it. Okay, there we go.
So, hi everybody. My name is Laura Collinette, and I am the co-chair of Lumiere Cape Breton Unamagi. We decided this year to have a hybrid festival that contains online artwork and events and all sorts of content from September 12th to 25th. And then because of luck and I don't know, luck, I guess, that we were able to have the hybrid portion where we can visit each other and have a community in-person event on the Saturday 25th from 7 p.m. to midnight. So if you are in Cape Breton, please join us. I just want to say thank you to Michelle for hosting this event. I think it's going to be really interesting, and I think that with this year and with COVID, a big portion, I mean, for me personally, was healing. So I'm excited to learn what Michelle has to offer today.
Thank you, Laura. And I am so grateful that you did go online and provide this opportunity, because it provided me to think in a completely different way. How could I share art, and how could I share art online and make it interactive? So it really was a great challenge to be able to face. So yeah, so thank you. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get started. So if everybody wants to turn their mics and their cameras off, I'm going to have you engaged through the whole presentation, which is exciting. If there's anything you need to ask me, then, please unmic and ask a question, because I do want to be interactive, but I also want you to be able to see everything. So that's why I'm just going to get you to turn your cameras off. And I'm going to bring my PowerPoint up just so we can have a little bit of reference to start off with. And then we'll go from there. And I'm just going to come back to the stop share for a moment. There we go. Try to get all these pieces coordinated here. Lovely. Okay. So let's start. So this is called Creating the Sea of Tranquility. And this is because of the title that Lumiere chose for this year, which was about sights and seas. So I know they were thinking about the water, they were thinking about the places around Cape Breton and some of the beauty we have surrounding us. And so I've taken my focus into the Sea of Tranquility, which is our heart center. And there is a lot of work and science that is working with the heart center and how we explore it. But what I'm going to do today is, instead of exploring that piece, I'm going to just try to create it, and I'm going to try to create it for you through art. So that's where we're heading. So we're doing a somatic exploration through color, and our changing and evolving times, especially what we had the last 2 years, has rocked our world. And in fact, the chaos I've had in the last week has rocked my world beyond lots of things I've endured in the last 2 years. So it just continues and keeps going. And I want a way for people to be able to explore the things that are around them in the art world and in color, that will be able to bring some vibrancy back into what we're doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at color. We're going to look at movement. So the way that I typically will work is through Tai Chi, dance, reflex integration, and sign language. And I work with the traditional Chinese medicine ideas around the 5-element theory. And I explore this. That goes back thousands of years. And I'm exploring it with some of the tools that are a little bit newer, but also which have had amazing effects. We're going to use some ways of knowing, which could be our 5 senses, could be our intuition, could be tension and relaxation. And that's how we'll explore today, so you can see how color affects you. And we're going to do a little bit of goal setting and intention. This comes from my background in bioenergetic wellness, which is how to set the stage for making a change and then creating the energy and flow towards that change. We're going to do that all with art today. And the last is emotions, because of course everything that we do is related to emotion and how we feel. And we're going to explore that too as we go through the colors. Oops. That's backwards. So I'm Michelle Greenwell, and I live in Mabu. So for over in the UK, Rosemary, we're known as Shining Waters. I live in the Mi'kma'ki and the Maliseet territory, and I'm very proud to be in this area, and also very proud of the communities that have been built here with both the Indigenous people. Around where I live is Gaelic, and then we also have we have English and French. We have quite a hodgepodge of people who've come in here from displaced from other places, and really the culture that sits in where I live is amazing. So as I said before, we're looking at some dance and some Tai Chi because movement is my base. But the other ideas that I want to share with you come from Touch for Health, Therapeutic Touch, the NeuroReflex Integration. So that's how the reflexes develop in the body, and then how you use them for movement patterns and other things. And I'm also going to explore today the Choose Love formula, which comes from the Choose Love movement, and also bioenergetic wellness. And that's supported by an organization known as Can Be Well, which I am involved in. Same with the Choose Love movement. So the first thing we want to do is set our compass. We want to know where we're going and what we want to have when we're complete. So when we're finished today, whatever vision you've had that you might have been holding on to but have never really got to, we want to set the energy and flow towards that vision. Okay, so I would like you to think a little bit about something you would like to have different, or something that would enhance your life if you added it in. And for today, for our presentation, the goal that I was working on was inspiring art to be interactive and influential in creating a tool for your wellness toolbox. So that's the goal that I'm working around today, and I'm going to be bringing balance and flow to for everybody that's here and anybody who sees the presentation afterwards. And while you're in your little space where you are, you think about something you would like to have. You might say, I easily and joyfully am active every day, something like that. And just bring that into your thoughts. It might not be able to be articulated in words. And in fact, to use imagery is much better because it gets us away from language. And so you might envision what it is you'd like to be doing or to be involved in or to have closer to you. So now that I've said that, I hope that's given you a couple of ideas and that you can continue to think on it. You can write it down, or you can just bring that picture in. And then I just want to explain a little bit about the Sea of Tranquility. So the Sea of Tranquility is the space occupied by our heart and our passion for living. So we all often, say from my heart or in my heart, or I love this, or I'm passionate about. That comes from that seated space in the middle of the chest. So our focus to the heart space will explore balance and flow as we go through today. And you can think about when you've been in rocky waters. You can think about when there's been blockages towards things that you've wanted. And you can also think about space, time, and movement, where some things are easy to do and some things aren't so easy to do. And then you know when you're following your heart and maybe when you're not following your heart. Maybe you're following your head and your head isn't quite in cahoots with your heart. So what I want you to explore today is when we're balanced, we can experience this heart space is a big expansion. It just feels like everything opens up. Sometimes that's your breath is bigger, and that it might be experienced that way. But the Sea of Tranquility, when everything is in harmony, it creates a center. It pulls us into ourselves and brings us to the here and now. And as we go exploring through color today and the artwork, what I hope you'll experience by the time we get to the end is how that seated space in your heart, or that passion for living, is brought around. So at the end, when we're finished, you can kind of go, that's the Sea of Tranquility, when that harmony is in there. And I hope that that's what you find when we get to the end today. Okay, so let's explore a little bit. How do you feel with this goal envisioned? And you probably weren't thinking about that when you started. You just set your goal. So what I want you to do is just turn your head and see Well, sorry, that would be neck. That's jumping one. Let's go to tension and anxiety. Let's go on a scale from 0 to 10, 10 being highly anxious or in high tension, and 0 being just completely, you could just lie down and have a nap. So you may not want to be exactly to 0, but you definitely want to be on the lower end if you're going to be calm and relaxed and balanced. And if you're feeling that tension or that anxiety is more up like 5, 6, 7, maybe 8, 9, 10, then I just want you to notice that. What does it feel like? And this is in regards to your goal and intention. So if I think in terms of the intention that I set for all of us to have today, it doesn't make me anxious to be involved in this goal. But of course, putting the presentation together and making sure I deliver it well can give me that anxiety. So that's the kind of feeling I'll have towards this goal. I hope at the end you accomplish everything that you set out to have from this presentation. And I hope I've delivered everything the best way that I could. That allows me to experience, what is that anxiety level at? How can I feel that? Okay, so now let's go to some body things we could feel. So if you turn your head, just notice how far you can see and what your neck feels like when you turn. And you might also notice what the rest of the body feels like. And I went on a big walk this morning. I can really feel every aspect. So just take a note of what the neck feels like, because we're going to go back and at the end, go back and evaluate it again. So now let's think about legs. So let's imagine what if you're going towards your toes, trying to reach towards your toes, you don't have to get your toes. But just what does it feel like to bend over to try to reach towards your toes? What does the neck, the back, the shoulders, the hips all feel like? And what does it feel like down the back of the legs? So if you were sitting down, you could do this seated, but I'm just going to get you to do that stretch to see what it feels like. I'm leaving the screen. Okay. If you could see me, my hands only went slightly below my knees. So very, very tight. Okay. So now let's look at breathing. So if you think about where you're breathing at the moment, notice if it's in your throat, notice if it's top of the chest, notice if it's shallow and quick, or if it's deep and slow. Maybe it's in the middle. And just notice if all the ribs are expanding or if the belly is moving. Notice if your back is moving and expanding. Okay. Maybe you're holding your breath. So just notice those pieces. And the last part is the monkey thoughts. So if you think about maybe with your goal, you've been thinking about this goal for a long time and you've had these thoughts that have gone through your head, all the reasons why you can't obtain what you think you'd like to obtain, or all the things that you would need to put in place in order to achieve it. Or there's a whole bunch of other stuff in your day that just keeps running through your head and you can't ever get clear enough to get to your goal because this other stuff is in there. I just want you to pay attention to those kinds of thoughts that you notice about yourself that might be present and you think it's kind of normal. But when we're in flow, those monkey thoughts just disappear. So I just want to invite that little bit of conversation. Okay, and now we get to color. So what we want to know is, do you have a favorite color? And if you have a favorite color, where does it show up in your day? So I know my screen is small at the moment and I will turn the PowerPoint off, then you'll be able to see the color behind me. But I know you can see the color in here. Everything I do is vibrant and colorful. And I always have lots of color involved in what I do. But some people like, like a white or an off-white. Some people like just to wear total black. What is your favorite color and where is it? How do you put it into your day? So if you wanted to be creative, if you wanted to be productive in what you're doing, or if you wanted to be an influencer of others, what is the color that you have that you use to create this opportunity? And maybe you don't know what that is at the moment, but I'm just going to plant that seed. So when we're finished today, hopefully you'll start to think about color in a different way. And the other one is, what color is the room that you relax in? This is my thinking creative room. And so it is yellow. It is Big Bird from Sesame Street. It's birdseed yellow. And I like that because it's part of Sesame Street, which is a part of being playful. And also it's Big Bird was always inquisitive, what he was doing. How does this work? Why are people doing this? What else could I be doing? That's what I feel like. And when I'm in this space, this is the way I like to work. So the color for me really works. It also means I have sunshine every day. So even if it's dismal outside, maybe it's rainy, I can still have sunshine over top of me. Okay, so I'm hoping you've thought about your colors a little bit. So now I'm going to introduce you to the 5-element wheel. And we today are going to go through 2 cycles. One is called the co-cycle and the other is the Shen Cycle. So the Shen Cycle creates a wheel. So we would go around the wheel. So if you start at the top where you see those red footprints, that would be known as fire. And then we're going to come around to yellow, which is earth. We come around to metal, which you've got white, silver, gray, or black. And then you come around to water, which is your blue, and then wood, which is green. That would be your Shen Cycle. It's a nurturing cycle. And we're going to play around with it. We're also going to do the co-cycle, which makes a star. And that star goes, if we started at fire, we start with red, you would go down to silver. So you would skip one, you're just following those little arrows. So you go to silver, then you go over to wood, across to earth, back down to water, and then up to fire. So it creates a star shape. And that one they call the destructive or the creative cycle. So that's where if you want to change something, that's the power cycle. And that brings you into a new pattern that's going to stabilize you into what that new goal is. So we're going to play with both of those today. Okay, so that gets us to these cycles, and I'm going to stop the PowerPoint here so that you can see me in total. And when Rosemary and I were talking at the very beginning, she was commenting on the pictures that I have behind me. And this is what the whole presentation is about today, is the artwork behind me. So what I'm going to do is just pull down one of these pieces. And a few years back, my daughter-in-law is an artist. She likes to paint with acrylics, and she was exploring the power of the foot. And my son is a tap dancer. So what she was creating was paintings with feet using tap shoes. And I asked her if she would please paint for me the 5 elements so that I could have a representation, an artistic representation of those colors. And also if she would layer them so there were intentions. There were certain kinds of words and thoughts that we put into the canvas before she started. And then we also put in the intention of the music. So there was very specific music chosen to create each painting. So what you're seeing up on the wall there is a different element. So this is the water element. You can see the layers of color. And there were several layers of ideas, her foot plus my son's foot. And sometimes you can see in the paintings, there's colors from the other elements that just kind of hinted through, just that connection that happens between them. These paintings then became a whole part of my work with dancers, because I wanted to explore, how does color affect the body? How does it affect what we're doing? How does it affect performance? And for dancers, they often wear bodysuits and tights, black bodysuit with pink tights. And maybe if you're a tap dancer, jazz dancer in a dance studio, it might be the studio color is blue, and that's the color you have to wear every single day. How does that affect you? How does it affect the way that you want to perform? And then what kind of strength do you have in the movement patterns because of the color that you're wearing? That's what I wanted to explore. So for the last couple of years in my dance classes, we've explored color through these 5 elements and through those pieces. And we've done it a couple of ways. So I've taken the artwork and I've transferred it onto canvas. And so this allows me the opportunity to step into color. So what we're going to do today is explore what those colors feel like. And I know that you don't have all my colors with all my intentions sitting at your house. However, what I do know from the work that I've done online with Therapeutic Touch and Touch for Health is that energetically, we can quickly connect to anything we set our mind into. So my intention is for you to experience these colors and these patterns, which is a little bit different than you could step on the color red, but I want you to experience what does it feel like when all this intention is infused into a color, and when you stand on it, how does it affect the body? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to explore it. I switched it over to that wheel that you saw and put it onto a tapestry. You can see it's like that. And what I'm going to do is put that on the floor, and then I'm going to step onto each color. And as I do that, I'd like you to imagine you're stepping onto the same color. I'm just going to lay this out on the floor here. And I will put the screen down. So hopefully you can see some of that. Let me just slide you forward a little bit. Okay, here we go. Camera picked it up. Okay, so what I would invite you to do is step onto the same color as I'm going to step onto, because I just want you, I'm not going to go in an order that I talked about with Ko and Shen. I'm going to go in a random order. But I just want you to notice, what does your body feel like when you step onto the color? So if you stand right now wherever you are, and just stand on your feet, notice what it feels like to stand. And we already did those other pre-checks to notice what the body feels like. So now let's step over to yellow. Let's step onto, I'm just going to say yellow color. Stand on it and notice anything that the body does differently from when you were standing before. And you may notice it through the feet, but you might notice it in your lower back. You might notice it in the hinges. So you might notice your knees change a little bit, or maybe your shoulders and your neck. You just notice, or your breath could change as well. Okay, let's step onto the silver, white, and gray. See if that's different than the yellow. I'm giggling because my knees immediately stopped hurting as soon as I stepped onto this color, which is interesting. Just that big walk today, my knees were wondering why I did that. Okay, so now I'm going to just step over to red. I'm just going to step on red, see what that feels like. This kind of caves my feet in, actually, so my arches almost fall when I stand on this one. That's a little bit different. Let me see what happens when I step on the blue. You notice the top I wore today is blue. That was because I checked in with what is the color that was going to give me the energy and the vibrancy to do the presentation. So when I step onto blue, where I felt the red kind of made my knees kind of knock together, the blue actually pulls my legs into alignment, which is really interesting. I can feel my lower back just completely soften and open. Okay, and we didn't step on green, so let's try green, see how that feels. Okay, definitely not as nice as blue. I don't cave in like I did on red, but I certainly can feel a difference in that it's aligned, but it's not aligned with the same power or strength. Okay, so I'm hoping that you were able, there we go, sorry. I was hoping that you were able to get that same kind of sensation out of the colors just for them being colors, because we didn't put them into any kind of order. So now what I would like to do is do a movement pattern that takes us in a nurturing cycle. So we're going to go around the wheel as I showed you, and we're just going to step into each color. And I'm going to add some movement to it. And I just want you to see if you notice anything different by the time we get to the end. Okay, so I'm just going to bring this back down. So you've got the wheel there. Okay, and I'm going to start on fire. Actually, I should probably start for the time of day. The time of day today, not in the UK, but in Canada for most of us, Bev's in Ottawa. So the color for the time of day right now is actually blue, water element. And so if you'll join us, Rosemary, in pretending you're on Canadian time, Atlantic Eastern time. Okay, so let's start in blue. And what I want you to do with this one, I'm just going to pull this up so you can see me. So I'll be describing the colors as we step into them. But what I'd like you to do with your hands, you're just going to let your hands float and then just let them sink. And when they sink, you're just going to sink down into your feet. Okay? We'll do 3. Just nice deep breath. And then let that go and sink. And then bringing that back up, floating, and then sink. And another one, float. Let that go, sink. Right. So that gives you water. Just notice what it feels like standing there now. And then we're going to move over to wood. So we're going to do that nurturing cycle. So I'm stepping on the green. Okay? And we're going to do the same pattern. This comes from Tai Chi. It's called commencement. Just float this up. And let that go. And then again. And let that go. And one more. Okay. So now we're going to move over to fire. And they'll color red. So I'm stepping over to my left. Okay, we're going to do the same action. One more breath. I'm not sure if all of you were noticing it, but I felt everything, everyone, the breath slow down and calm. And it just became fuller and slower. And then I had a gurgling in my stomach, which tells me that I actually relaxed enough for my inner body to just completely to be able to let go and start to function better. So I moved over to yellow, earth element. I'm going to do that again. Just notice if your hands start to feel a little bit lighter. Or there's kind of a flow that goes from the feet to the hands. Let's see. One more. All right. I'm not sure what you've experienced there, but I did notice that my lower back, which wasn't tight, but now it's more open. So that seems to have shifted a little bit. I'm going to come back around over to the metal element. And it's white, silver, or gray. Just breathing in. Let go. Okay. And just step back to blue, into the water element. Just bring yourself back there. Just standing on that color and see if it feels the same as the last time you were there. I'm just noticing that my hips, I feel like my body is not sitting on top of my legs. It's actually lifting above my legs. So I'm no longer trying to push all my weight down into the ground, which would be my tired after a walk kind of feel. And feel kind of like I've lifted up and I'm a little bit more springy or supported. I'm not sure what you might describe, but just be aware there. And now that we're there, just try a couple things. Turn your head to the side and see if it has a different range of motion or a different feeling as you turn. Okay? So for mine, definitely I can easily turn now. And this left side, I could hardly turn to the left when I started. It was really, really tight. And now it's even. Both sides have balanced out, which is really cool. Okay, let's go to towards your toes. Now you have to touch your toes. Just what does it feel like to go forward? See what that feels like. And I described to you before that if you could have seen my knees, I was just like slightly below my knees with my fingertips. And now I'm closer to just slightly above my ankles. So I have a different range of motion coming through my back and my legs. Okay, so we've got that little piece. Notice your breath. See what's happened. I don't know if you can hear through the microphone, but there's gurgling going on in my stomach at the moment, which means it's happy. And the breath seems to be more through the body. It was deep before, but it wasn't really deep. It was down in here, but it wasn't opening and expanding. Now it's starting to do that. So I'm not sure if you experienced the same, but give you an idea. Okay, so there's a couple of things. Now, if I think about monkey thoughts, before we started, there were a whole bunch of things. Don't forget to say this, make sure I've included that, all those little pieces, and that's just like, I'm like right in the subject. I'm like, I've got all of the pieces of what I want to share here. So that's changed for me. Hopefully some of that might have changed for you. And if it's towards your goal that you set your intention for, then perhaps some of those reasons for not doing something, or I hate to say negative thoughts because sometimes they're security thoughts. So whatever was rolling around in the head that was preventing you from the goal, hopefully they've just kind of fallen away, not so predominant, and you'll be able to flow into that. Okay, so that's one way that I've explored color and the artwork. And this last year with COVID, I was blessed with a position called Arts Education with the Cape Breton Partnership. They did a very special initiative for those of us in the arts community that became unemployed as a result of COVID. And in that process, I was able to create different projects. And I set to work on how could I take these 5 elements and these pieces of art, and how could I engage dancers in it. But of course, I couldn't teach dancers here this last year. So how could I expand that into some of the other things I was doing? So I had some things I produced for education, so into the school district, but also for the students that I teach in energy medicine or in wellness toolbox ideas. I was able to produce some other ideas. And so what I would like to show you next is how I expanded these pieces of art and given you another chance to explore. So I'm just going to move my camera up a little bit, and you'll see at the back there, I have these squares on the floor. I'm going to show you what they look like. So this one's a fire element. You can see I still have the piece of artwork in the center. I also have the wheel here on the side. So this is important because all the time I'm keeping my intention there. But now what I've added to it is, we've got the color, but we also have what's called the 6 healing sounds. So over here are the sounds that you can make with the color, which will enhance the energy in the body and shift towards the goal. You also have the emotions at the bottom that are experienced within that element. So how the body will put that through the system. So joy, love, and hate. They can flow in the body in a certain way coming through the fire element. So they affect certain organ systems. It can also affect certain tissue or muscles in the body. And then the other piece I have comes from my relationship with the Choose Love movement. So here it says Choose Love. So what I did was I took the formula from Choose Love, which is gratitude, compassion and action, forgiveness and courage. In social emotional learning and our way of dealing with all that we've had to deal with in the last 2 years, if you bring that formula together, the body has a way of being able to let go and move forward. And so I took the formula, applied it to the 5 elements, and applied it to the artwork, which already had intention in it and had the color in it. So what I'm going to get you to do now is do some sign language with me. And what we're going to do is bring in those elements from the formula, but we're going to put them onto the wheel. The first wheel that we did was a nurturing wheel. We went around in the circle. That was on the tapestry. So what I'm going to do is step onto fire. It's the easiest one to start with. So I'm stepping right onto the colors again. So I'm on fire, same as you, wherever you're standing, you're on fire. And the sound that we can make is a ha or a he. And I'm actually going to go ha. It's kind of like, it has that kind of feel with it. When we vocalize, the whole body shifts. When we put it with color, it changes again. And then I'm going to add movement. So I'm going to do the A-OK fingers. Looks like this. And you take those A-OK fingers and you bring them around to give yourself a hug. And that is the sign language for choose love. So now if you think of your Sea of Tranquility, your heart seat in here, and you think of how you feel when you are being passionate about what you're doing, or you feel centered and you feel right on target for where it is you want to be and what you want to be doing. Choose love allows you to bring that around and bring you into that space, that centering. Okay. From there, we're going to do the star shape, which is that co-cycle. So I'm going to actually step back to the metal element, which is silver, white, or gray. So you imagine stepping onto that element. This one, the emotion is grief, guilt, and regret. So this is where we process that. And can you imagine white, silver, and gray helps you process grief? And you think about when you lose someone, if you're to a funeral, or just because of the way you feel, very often you'll choose those kinds of colors. And that's a way for you to process. So we're standing on that color. The sound is a S. Okay? And this one is forgiveness. We can forgive ourselves. In our Sea of Tranquility, we're focused on ourselves today. So we can forgive ourselves and we can forgive others. Anything in relation to ourselves that's going to keep us from our goal. Okay? And forgiveness is taking your left hand and you just slide your right fingertips off the end of your fingers this way. This is forgiveness. And I'm just going to go nice and gentle. Okay. So now what we want to do is move over to the wood element. So I am stepping into that. This is where anger and resentment will sit. None of us have experienced that. None of us hold on to anything. In relationship to a goal, there's always something that will hold us back or create that angst. And so the wood element is so vibrant for that. This is gratitude. We are grateful for all the opportunities that allow us to know the difference, whether we want to keep it and let it go, and also to transition. And the sound here is shh. So your hand goes to your chin and it's forward. Shh. And just breathe out. Feel that green underneath you. Okay. So now we're going to go across to the earth element, which is yellow. And you're standing in those intentions. The words that go with this one are sympathy and empathy. And as you step onto that, I'm going to invite you to think about something that Scarlett Lewis introduced me to, who is the head person of the Choose Love movement. In one of her presentations, she talked about empathy and sympathy and how we can empathize with a person or we can have sympathy for a person, but it does not put us into action. It allows us to be in their footsteps and sometimes take on their burden. And that doesn't serve us very well. And our Sea of Tranquility isn't able to flourish if it has to take the burdens on of others. So what we're going to do with this one is our compassion in action, which is we can understand a person's position, but we can take an action to move them from where they are into somewhere that's forward, somewhere that's going to allow them to move where they need to go. And for us today, because our focus is the Sea of Tranquility for us, this is a place where we can move ourselves into action. Our sound here is who, just like an owl, and you drop your middle finger down just a little bit. We're just going to move the fingers forward and back a little bit. And you'll notice my body usually engages whole body into this action. So we go, whoo, and it could be whoo, like the owl. Just let it out. This is compassion in action. This is our ability to move from where we are into something we really want. Okay. So now we're going to step across to the water element. So you're stepping onto blue. This is fear and anxiety. Fear and anxiety loves to sit in knees. So a lot of people will get a knee pain when the anxiety gets too high. Okay, so I'm giggling just because I went for that beautiful walk today. It was so beautiful, I didn't want to turn around and come back. So my knees were telling me the truth of that decision. Okay, the sound here is chew. Just like a choo-choo train. And the word here is courage. So when you have fear and anxiety, you have the opportunity to accept the courage, move forward with that compassion in action. So we're just going to take, if you think of bear claw hands, just claws, and you're just going to bring them to your shoulders. And then you're going to make what I call a butterfly fist. Very loose fist that you could put a butterfly in the palm of your hand. When you closed your fingers over it, you wouldn't squish it. Rosemary, as you're thinking about those moths that you're doing that wonderful project for, this is the courage to go forward. We've got our butterfly fist. All right. And just feeling that strength that comes from that action as allowing us to move that goal that we set our intention for into a new place. We're going to finish by coming back up to the fire element, joy, love, and hate. And we're going to bring in our joy. All right, we did is our sound. Now we're going to go he this time. And this one was the A-OK fingers. So the thumb and the pointer finger came together. And we go he. Bring it across. All right. So the balance through the wheel with color and sound is something that comes from Touch for Health. The 6 healing sounds are, we use sounds in Touch for Health, different sounds, but I chose the ones that come from Tai Chi and Qigong because those are the ones that are a little bit easier to make. They're just a consonant sound, so nice and simple. So I incorporated those. And then the use of sign language allows us to move. When we move, we have the opportunity to go forward. We linked all of that to the art, the intentions that were set within the colors that were a way for you to be inspired to be able to do something different. Okay, so now I'm going to get you to step off the colors into whatever space that you have. And I just want you to turn your neck and see, how does that feel now? See if that's any different. Okay, mine, I can always, when it gets really connected, I can feel the link of whole body movements. When I turn my neck, I can turn it, but there's like a link that comes all the way through here and it wants to just spiral me to make the turn, which tells me the whole body's become engaged. So that's what I'm feeling now. And if you want to just reach down to touch your toes, see what that feels like. See if there's any change there. I'm like an inch or so from the floor. Okay. And then if you want to just notice, what does it feel like to stand here now? What do my feet feel like? And as you're standing there, are your hips floating above the legs? Do the joints feel like they've got some buoyancy in them? On your feet. In Tai Chi, we call it the bubbling springs. It would be in the center of the foot. So I know it's harder to see my foot. I'll pretend my hand is my foot. So right in this part of the foot, so you've got your toes on the floor. Right in there, there's an arch there, or a canopy that holds us in position. I'll just step back so you can see my foot. And in that, the weight, if it's in that bubbling springs, every joint just loosens up. So I just noticed that my feet right now are into that bubbling spring, whereas sometimes I can be back into my heel with my knees locked up. And that's when I know there's tension. Okay, so then if you think about your level of anxiety or tension from when you started, see if that shifted. So I would say I was like a 5, 6. I'm like a 2. And it's not that I'm a 2, I could go to bed. It's a 2, I feel really calm, relaxed, and I just feel like everything's going to go where I need it to go. That's kind of how I'm feeling with that. Okay, and then you've got those monkey thoughts. Just going back to the monkey thoughts. What do you notice about them? Have they disappeared? And have they shifted? Because sometimes they go to patterns of, oh, I could do. You know, if I linked up this, if I collaborated with so-and-so, or I called someone for a cup of tea, or if I brought a group of people together, I would be able to accomplish. And all of a sudden, instead of those thoughts of how you can't do something or why you shouldn't do something, then shift over to here's the way I could, and then it puts you into that action to go forward. So I'm hoping you can understand the power of combining the Choose Love movement in with the 5 elements and to create a real action pattern of energy flow in all of those spaces. Okay, so let's finish off with a couple more things. So the artwork is behind me, but you don't have that necessarily in your fingertips. And you can put color on. So I asked you what color for the day that you might want. The other things that I do, and I use with my dancers, is all my dancers got a little pack of felt of the different colors. And then what we would do is we would check in with the body to see which one would give us more flexibility, which one might give us more strength. Maybe it's creativity you need, or maybe it's courage to go forward and try something new. So you can look at the colors and you can determine which color might be the one that could support you better. And maybe that's going to be the color that you put in your room. Maybe it's going to be the artwork that you put on the wall or that you create. Maybe it's going to be what you wear or the knickknacks that surround you that have certain kinds of meanings with certain kinds of colors. So I'm going to get you to try one more little piece today. This is called the body sway test. And so if there's a color that is going to put you into the space to make that goal or that intention come true, you want to find that color. So what I have here is we did the colors of the chakras when we were exploring last year. And so you see lots of different colors in here, but I could easily just use the 5 element colors. So I could have my red, I could have my green, yellow, blue, and in this case, it's going to be white. So there's my 5 element colors. So what I'm going to do is just put them on my body. And if the color is going to help me with my goal, then I would be able to just take that little flannel piece, tuck it in my sock, put it under my bra strap, tuck it into the waistband, or I might choose to wear a top that's in that color, and then it's to the skin if you want it to be able to touch. Or socks, underwear, they could be that color as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this red, and I'm just going to hold on to it so it's connected to my skin. And if it's going to be supportive of me, I'll continue to stand. It's pushing me backwards and saying, no, that's not going to happen. Okay, so I go to green. This is going to be the color that's going to support me today. Now I'm just standing perfectly still. And that's interesting because I chose to put on the Choose Love bracelet today because I felt like the green just really needed to be with me. So green definitely is going to support me. Okay, so I've got yellow. So you imagine yellow. And that one's going to push me away. So yellow is not going to be too supportive for me, what I want on my body today. And blue. Blue, it just like sucked right down into my feet. My knees went, gotcha. Totally supported. Okay, so green and blue. And then if I go to white, I can feel that before I even started. White is not going to be the color for me at the moment. Okay, so today to support me would be blue and green. And you see, I had worn it already to make sure that I was balanced and supported. So that's one way you could choose a color. It either leaves you totally supported, it feels good, or it pushes you away in whatever direction. It's like, that's not the color for you at this time for this goal. If you change your goal, it could change the color. So you just have to check in again. Okay, that's one way that I've worked with dancers. And dancers, we did what color would give us flexibility. And so we did the same check-in. And when it got to a color that was totally solid and supporting, we put the color on. And then we went over to do, might have been kicks across the floor, or it might have been down into the splits, might have been just stretching. And we had that color on while we were engaged with that. I've also done the artwork spread around the room so that as the dancers were doing their routines, if they needed to lock into a color because that color gave them the strength to do a leap, the color was already on the floor, they could see it and they could tune into that color and then do their leap. And if they need a little bit more flexibility because they were going to go to the floor and maybe do a fan kick all the way over, that color would be on the floor and they could just say, oh, there's that yellow, and then into the fan. Really interesting way to interact with the artwork and with the color. And the last little piece is you can always have a bracelet. You could have it beautiful weaved threads if you wanted to do something that way. Could be some kind of a fabric piece, or these ones are plastic, but these ones are all set up again by the chakras and are fabulous for providing a quick way to bring color and support to you in whatever you're doing. Okay, so let's just pull up the PowerPoint and let's finish what we started here. See how you're doing. So we've explored the color. We've explored it through the Shen Cycle and the Co-Cycle. So the Shen Cycle was around in the circle, and the Co-Cycle was the one that made the star. We did color, we did movement, so we did the commencement. I have lots of different movements that I do, but that was the one I chose for today from Tai Chi. And then we also did sign language and used the power of that movement. And then we gave the sound. Okay, and then you had the intention of all the colors. You can see the Choose Love formula there, in case that's something that you want to spend more time with. You can find that at chooselovemovement.org if you wanted to know more about that. And we just move that forward. We went back through, we checked to see how we feel. If there was anything there that really stood out for you as a really good indicator of how you were feeling in relation to your goal, then that might be a great way for the rest of the week to just tune in and keep going, well, how am I feeling about this? And maybe it's the tension anxiety scale, but maybe it was your breathing. How could you bring it around and go, okay, I think I feel everything is in flow now. So now, I'm hoping when I went through those 5-element colors, you found a color that would support you. During the day, when you want to be creative, you want to be productive, you want to be an influencer, what is the color that you could bring onto your skin that would allow you to enhance what you're doing? And we still have that color too. What is the color you need when you need to relax? Because blue might be the color that I need to do this presentation, but then I might want to go have a really nice nap. Is blue going to be that color? It might actually be I need to just really shift. And so instead of leaving the blue on, I could actually shift to a different color, and that would support me in getting a much needed rest. Okay. The tools that I shared with you. So you can see in the right-hand side there, the 5-element wheel and the example of the compassion and action, those little squares. Those I have created, and you can find them on my website, dancedebut.com. If that's something that you're interested in playing more with. You see the 5-element wheel there, and I showed you the tapestry. So I'll show you, I have a link to how you can get your hands on the tapestry, and that's by actually purchasing the artwork from the artist. So that's Green Studios, and I have that in the link a little bit in a moment. But that's where that tapestry is, you can find it. The tools that I shared also are involved in a card deck called It's in the Cards. And so I have all kinds of 5-element ideas, taking the artwork just a little bit further into a game of cards, which you can use individually or you can play games with it. So that's another way. Before some of you got onto the presentation today, I talked a little bit about the affirmations for the body and biofield. This is another way of exploring art. And Tanya Levy, who is on the presentation here today, her and I have worked in bringing together digital art and intention infused into the artwork, along with affirmations. So another way that you can use art and color to enhance the body and the biofield, or the energy that surrounds the body. Bioenergetic Essentials, the book that's there, is a book created. Tanya is co-author with me, as well as Paula Noack-Drug and Tasha Polomsky. This is a whole book full of tips and tools, which you can get a free PDF from my website, or from the Choose Love website, or from the Can Be Well website. So it's available for free, and then there's a hardcover if you feel you'd like your own copy. And then you see a little bag of tea there. I like to infuse the 5 elements as well as intention into the herbs. And the herbs already have their own intentions, so there's tea that's available if that's something else you want to play with artistically. All right. And the last piece is my resources. I have devoted, oh my goodness, the last 20 years to all the ways that people can potentially help themselves to be healthy and well and vibrant. And so all of my resources are geared towards that. Many of them are free. If you want to go to Linktree Dance Debut, you can find links to the tapestry that I showed you, how to go to find it on Redbubble, to my podcast, which is free, Be Well with Michelle Greenwell, to my YouTube channel, which has many, many resources. There's hundreds of videos there, which could support you on your wellness journey, and playing around with the artwork, because they show up and pop into lots of different places. And then on my website, dancedebut.com, is a shop, so you can find lots of resources there as well. I'm sharing with you canbewell.org, the organization that I'm president of at the moment. We have an initiative to reach out to the public, to show them the way that we can be interacting with the tools that we have every day to be well and to live well. And we have a huge summit coming up. It's a 6-month project for those people who really want to dive in and explore how they could be using their tools and how they could learn more about their wellness and how to build their toolbox. And the last is the Choose Love movement. If you enjoyed the formula, you want to learn a little bit more about them, they have many, many free resources on their website, and I'm happy for you to find them and to check those out as well. So I'm going to stop the share here. I thank you so much for coming to participate. I would love for you to turn your camera on and bring your voice in. And I know, Rosemary, yours will be through the chat box, but please, any feedback that you have, things that you noticed or you experienced that you might not have had before, I would love to hear it. And thank you so much. And I really, Laura, thank you so much to Lumiere for helping me to think differently and for the opportunity to present today. It's quite an honor.
Well, thank you, Michelle. I had a great time. When you were showing the colors, I was looking around my bedroom, which I'm in right now, and I was like, I actually have a lot of those colors. I'm going to try to do it with you. So I have kind of a geometric shaping of yellow and red on my carpet, and my chair, which is very bouncy, is blue. And I have a gray mug by my bed, so I put my little toe on it and stood on one foot. And then I had a little bit of green on my dresser. So, through the experience, I was bouncing around my bedroom, but at the end of the color that I need right now turned out to be the blue one, but maybe it was a little that it was like I was bouncing on it because it's a bouncy chair, and I just felt like really relaxed. So it was a lot of fun. I had a good time.
Excellent. Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
And then what we see of your room is it's white. So the fact that you have those little pockets of color everywhere is interesting. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle. As always, I feel so much better after your workshop than when I start. Not that I was feeling awful, but I do feel refreshed and rejuvenated, and what a wonderful way to spend Sunday afternoon. And for some reason, white came up for me, and it was interesting because I'm usually the water and wood, but I'm laughing. What you can't see, but I'm wearing my new pants today that I bought, and they're green with white leaves. And so it's interesting because I went to get dressed like 3 times this morning, and I'm like, no, it's the green pants with the white leaves. And it's interesting how we intuitively know what we need, and we don't always listen to that. And so that was a good reminder for me as you were talking about the fact that you already dressed in what you needed. And so to really pay attention to the colors we're drawn to, and even the movements, like the commencement movement in Tai Chi, like I've kind of gotten away from my 17 moves in the morning practice, and I can tell you I'll be doing it tomorrow morning.
Awesome.
Welcome back. Thank you very much. And thank you, Laura, for your part in organizing this.
Thanks, everybody. This is great. Apparently, I thought that too, because I have white and blue checkers or stripes, and I have a green skirt on. So maybe those are the colors that I needed. Ooh, nice.
Oh, sweet. Those are lovely. And Bev, did you have Bev has the tapestry, and we've been playing with it in our tap and tea class on Tuesday afternoons. And did you have the tapestry there?
Sorry, there. Yes, I had the small one, and but started out initially without anything, just connecting with you and the colors and the patterns, and it was more hard to describe, but it was a whole different way. It was connecting in my imagination rather than with something concrete, and it was a good confirmation that we can do a lot with our connecting our minds and bodies if it's more imagination and creative than thoughts and words and things. So and it's sort of, I had many of the same feelings as when we've done it in tea and tap with I'm feeling much more grounded now and lighter. Much lighter in my body and spirit, and a little more energized, which is always a gift for me, to just feel the energy flowing. So thank you so much for guiding us through that.
Great, you're welcome. Awesome. And Rosemary's put in the chat box, she made a graphic based on what I was saying. Do you want to share that, Rosemary? Oh, that is so beautiful.
Oh my goodness.
I feel so much energy from that, Rosemary. Thank you.
Thank
you so much.
Beautiful.
Oh, that is great.
Feel that right in my Sea of Tranquility.
Yeah.
Right there.
Oh, beautiful.
I feel so blessed.
Oh, I love the arts. It's just so cool what we can do and how many ways we can play. It's so great. Oh, lovely. Oh, that is great. Rosemary.
Like that on my...
Yeah, I was going to say perhaps if you're okay to share it with me, I could share it. I don't have everybody's email, but people can email me and I'm happy to send it. I don't know if if you would be okay for Laura to be able to share it with the social media with Lumiere, because that would be so delightful to share what gets inspired just by a workshop. Oh yeah, that's great.
That would be
Perfect.
awesome. I'd love to share this with the other people. That'd be great. It's
Thank
beautiful.
you.
Oh, lovely. Okay, and I know there was, we had one other person who I didn't get to chat with. Where did it go here? Just hold on. It was Christy. So I don't know if Christy, if you're able to communicate or not. I know it's not always possible where in our rural communities, but if there's anything you want to share. And if not, that's okay. All right. Well, I hope that the goal that you set up, you feel like it's attainable or it's in flow, and you just keep track as you're going through the next few days and just see what happens with what flows towards you. And that's how the artwork interacts. And it's just so beautiful to be able to play with art the way we can. So thank you everyone for being here. And I look forward to the rest of the presentations that Lumiere has. It's a wonderful repertoire of amazing projects. So I hope people will check it out.
Yes, please do. You can check it out at our website. It's www.lumierecb.com. You can also find us on Facebook, which is the same thing, Lumiere Cape Breton, and we post everything on both of those kind of platforms. So
Perfect.
Thank you very much, Michelle. And
thank you. I'm going to sign off.